That little blue flame right there is coming out of a plastic barrel full of garbage. There's no propane tank hooked to it, no gas line running to it, nothing inside that barrel that I paid a single dollar for. Just kitchen scraps, a 5-gallon bucket of cow manure, some water, and a couple pieces of PVC pipe from the hardware store. If you're new here, go ahead and hit subscribe, because this is the kind of video where I show you something that genuinely works and then tell you all the parts that nobody puts in the thumbnail. Because I know what the title of this video says. We're going to get to that. I built this thing, I got it running, I cooked on it. And I have some things to tell you that are not going to match what it says up top. But let's start with the good part, because the good part is real. What this is a biodigester. Some people call it a methane generator, which I like better, because generator sounds like you meant to do it. Anaerobic digestion happens whether you meant it or not. It's happening in swamps. It's happening in the bottom of a stock pond. It's happening right now in the guts of every cow standing out in that field over there, which is a fact I'd rather not think about too hard while I'm eating. Here's the whole idea. You take organic material, you put it somewhere with no oxygen at all, and you keep it warm. Then a particular crowd of bacteria called methanogens go to work on it. These are old organisms. They were around making methane long before there was oxygen in the atmosphere to bother them. And oxygen does bother them. That's the whole trick. Oxygen kills the ones you want and lets the ones you don't want take over, and instead of fuel, you get a barrel of something that smells like a bad decision. So the entire engineering problem here is seal it up, keep the air out, keep it warm, and catch what comes off the top. That's it. That's the whole thing. Everything else is plumbing. Let's talk about the barrel. I'm using a 55-gallon food-grade plastic barrel with a removable lid and a clamp ring. You want food grade, and you want to know what was in it before. I've seen people grab a barrel out behind a shop somewhere with no idea what it hauled, and now they're going to ferment their dinner scraps in it. Don't. These show up used around here for $20 or $30 if you keep your eyes open, and mine came off a fellow who was hauling olives in it, which means the worst thing that ever happened in that barrel was olives. The removable lid is worth paying a little extra for. You could do this with a closed head barrel and just work through the bungs, and people do. But the first time you have to reach in and break up a crust or dig sediment out of the bottom, you'll be very glad you can take the whole top off. And you will have to do that eventually. Solids settle. That's not a design flaw. That's just what happens when you put a slurry in a container and leave it alone for 2 years. Now the PVC. You need 3 penetrations through that barrel, and that's all. An inlet, an outlet, and a gas takeoff. The inlet is a piece of pipe that goes in near the top and runs down almost to the bottom, on the inside. That matters. If you just poke a hole in the side and dump slurry in, you're pouring it straight into the gas space, and it splashes, and it lets air chase it in. Running that pipe down deep means whatever you pour in comes out underneath the liquid, and the liquid itself becomes the seal. That standing column of slurry in the pipe is doing the same job as the trap under your kitchen sink. Simple, dumb, and it works. My favorite combination of things. The outlet is the same idea in reverse. Another pipe going through the side, a few inches lower than where you want your liquid level to sit, running down into the tank. When you pour a gallon in the inlet, a gallon of digested slurry pushes out the outlet all by itself. You are not pumping anything. You're just using the fact that liquid doesn't like being stacked up, which is one of those things water is very stubborn about, as we covered in that video about my family's gravity water system. Then the gas takeoff, right in the top of the lid. A bulkhead fitting, a barbed connector, some hose, and a valve, so you can shut it. And I'd say a water trap on that line is not optional, because the gas coming off is warm and saturated, and it will condense water in your hose, and eventually that water plugs the line, and you'll spend an afternoon troubleshooting a bacterial problem you do not have. A water trap is a jar with a couple pipes in it, one going down into the water and one stopping above it. And that's the entire device. That's a $5 problem to solve at the front and a very annoying problem to solve at the back, usually in the rain, usually right when you wanted to cook something. The other thing you need is somewhere to put the gas. This is the part people skip. The digester makes gas slowly, all day and all night, but you want to cook with it in 15 minutes. So you need a buffer. There are people who use a second barrel floating upside down in a tub of water, which rises as it fills and gives you gentle pressure from its own weight, and it's a beautiful thing to watch and it takes up a lot of room. There are people who use a tractor inner tube, which is cheap and packs away and is what my neighbor uses. He's got 2 of them hanging in a shed rafter with a board and a couple bricks laid across them to give a little squeeze, and that's his whole pressure system. Bricks? Either way, you're storing it at almost no pressure. Which brings me to something I want to say plainly, and I'll come back to it. Now, filling it. You don't just load it with potato peels and wait. You have to give it the bugs. The bugs come from manure, cow, horse, goat, something from an herbivore, and fresh. Somewhere around 1/3 of the barrel to start, mixed with water. That's your starter culture, same as a sourdough, except you're never going to be tempted to name it. Then you top it up with water and scraps to about 3/4 full, and you leave that last quarter empty on purpose. Because that's the room where the gas collects. Then you close it up, and you wait. And this is the part nobody enjoys. It takes about a month before the biology settles in and starts producing reliably. The first gas you get, maybe a week or 2 in, won't even burn. It's mostly carbon dioxide. You vent it, and you try again. I did exactly that, stood there with a lighter like an idiot, got nothing, and had a brief moment where I thought I'd wasted my spring. Went out 4 days later, tried again, and got a flame about the size of a birthday candle that went out on its own. 4 days after that, it stayed lit. There's no announcement when it starts working. You just keep going out there with a lighter until one day it doesn't quit on you. For feeding it after that, small and often beats big and rarely. A 55-gallon unit wants something on the order of 2 or 3 gallons of scraps a week, chopped up fine or run through a blender. Fine matters. The bacteria are working on surface area, so a whole carrot is a much slower meal than a shredded one. Fruit, vegetables, old rice, dairy, a bit of cooking oil, all fine. What you keep out is wood, sawdust, straw, paper, grass clippings, anything woody, because it's linen and these bugs can't touch it, and it'll just sit there filling up your barrel. Keep out big loads of citrus peel too, because the oils in the peel are antibacterial, and you've just spent a month building a bacterial colony. An orange here and there is nothing. A winter's worth of peels all at once will set you back weeks. And go easy in general. Overfeeding is the most common way people kill one of these, and it's a little counterintuitive because you'd think more food equals more gas. What actually happens is the first stage of bacteria run ahead of the methanogens, acid builds up, the pH drops, and the methane producers shut down in the sour conditions. Then you've got a barrel of vinegar and a lot of nothing. Small and often. There's no prize for cramming it. So that's the build. Barrel, 3 pipes. A trap, a bag. A day of work, most of which is waiting for silicone to set up. And then 30 days later, you go out with a lighter, and you get that. All right, now the part where I ruin my own title. Let's do the arithmetic, because the arithmetic is not hard and nobody selling you a biogas video ever does it on camera. A well-run digester, kept warm, kept fed, will produce roughly its own volume in gas every day. My barrel is 55 gallons, which is about 7 1/3 cubic feet. Biogas is a mix. Call it 60% methane, most of the rest carbon dioxide, which puts you around 600 BTU in a cubic foot. Multiply that out, and one very good day gets you somewhere around 4,400 BTU. Now go look at the burner on your camp stove. A single burner runs 15,000 BTU an hour, wide open. So a full day of production, everything going perfectly, gets you about 18 minutes of flame. Enough to boil a couple gallons of water. Enough for a pot of coffee and maybe an egg. 18 minutes. That is the honest number for a 55-gallon barrel on its best day. And I want you to notice what I did not say. I did not say 18 minutes plus your propane. I said that's what the barrel gives you, total, in a day, running perfectly, in warm weather. A rule of thumb I keep running into from people who actually do this for a living is that anything under about 200 gallons of digester should be considered a science experiment rather than a fuel supply. Having built one, I'd say that's about right. I'm curious where you all land on this one, so tell me down in the comments. Is 18 minutes a day of free flame worth a barrel in your yard, or is that the point where you'd rather just go buy the propane? I don't have a good read on how that splits, and I'd like to see. Then there's the second problem, and for me it's the bigger one. Temperature. These bacteria are living things, and they work at body temperature. That's the whole reason they're in a cow in the first place. Right around 95, 100 degrees, they're happy. Drop into the 60s and production falls way off. Get down around 50 and it more or less stops. It doesn't die, it just quits on you. And it quits with a delay too, so the barrel keeps limping along for a week or two after the weather turned and then goes quiet. Which means here, on this property, in this climate, this thing is a summer appliance. It runs when I need it least. And it sits there like a lawn ornament from about October through May, which is precisely the stretch when I'm actually cooking indoors and would love some free gas. Unheated, unbuilt, sitting out in the weather. An unmodified digester in a cold climate loses somewhere in the range of half to 3/4 of its production in winter. My barrel loses more than that, because it's a thin plastic barrel with nothing around it and about as much thermal mass as a lawn chair. And you can watch it happen. On a hot afternoon in August, I can hear the thing working. There's a faint sound to it if you get your ear down near the outlet, a slow, irregular ticking as bubbles let go of the sludge and come up. By the end of September, that sound is gone. Same barrel, same feed, same everything, just cooler. You can fix that. People do. You bury it, you insulate it heavily, you build a greenhouse over it, you run a heat loop through it off a solar hot water panel. Every one of those is a real solution, and every single one of them is a bigger project than the barrel was. And once you're building a heated, insulated, buried, plumbed installation to keep 4400 B2 alive through January, we have wandered a long way from a barrel and some PVC. This channel has never been shy about pointing out when a thing has quietly turned into a much larger thing. So no, you are not going to never buy propane again. I want to be straight with you about that, because a lot of you are going to see that title on a dozen other videos and none of them are going to say it. To actually cover a household's cooking on biogas, you need something around 200 gallons of digester minimum for about an hour a day, and if you want the 4 or 5 hours a day that a family actually uses, you're into 1,000-liter tote or bigger, kept warm, fed steadily, all year. That's a real system. That's not a barrel. Now the safety part, and I'm not going to be funny about this one. That gas is methane, and methane is explosive in air anywhere between about 5 and 15%, which is a wide window and easy to land in. So this lives outside, not in a shed, not in a garage, not tucked under an eave just for the winter, outside where a leak becomes weather instead of an atmosphere. And methane is lighter than air. So it goes up and collects along the ceiling of whatever it's under, which is exactly where nobody is looking and exactly where your light fixture is. Second thing, and this is the one that actually worries me, raw biogas carries hydrogen sulfide. That's the rotten egg smell, and the cruel part about hydrogen sulfide is that at high concentrations it kills your sense of smell almost immediately. So the warning shuts off right when you need it. At 700 parts per million, a single breath can put you on the ground. Farm digesters routinely run in the 1,000 to 3,000 range. You can knock it down with a scrubber, a length of pipe stuffed loosely with plain steel wool, the kind with no soap in it, rusted up a bit, and the iron grabs the sulfide out as the gas passes through. Do that. But understand, a scrubber reduces it, it doesn't eliminate it, and none of this changes rule number 1, which is that this all happens outdoors. Third, and this is where people get themselves in real trouble, do not compress this gas. Not into a scuba tank, not into an old propane cylinder, not with a shop compressor. There are videos of people doing it. Methane doesn't liquefy at ambient temperature the way propane does, so you can't store it the way you're picturing, and the machinery involved in trying is not the machinery in your shop. You store biogas at almost no pressure, in something soft, and you use it near where you made it. That's the deal. If that sounds limiting, it is. It's the same limitation that makes a barrel of it worth 18 minutes instead of a week. And no open flame anywhere near the barrel itself. Take the gas away on a hose and burn it over there. Alright, so where does that leave this thing? Because I'm not tearing mine out. Here's how I've come around to thinking about it, and it took me most of a summer to get here. I had it backwards. I was treating the gas as the product and the leftover slurry as the waste. It's the other way around. What comes out that outlet pipe is digestate, and it's genuinely good fertilizer, liquid, immediately available to plants, with most of the pathogens and weed seed knocked back by the process. I've been running it into the orchard, diluted down, and the young apple trees on that end have noticeably outrun the ones on the other end that didn't get any. Now, I want to be careful there, because that's exactly the kind of claim people make on the internet with nothing behind it. 2 rows of trees is not a study. It's an observation with a sample size of not very many. And I've got no way to separate it from the fact that end of the orchard also drains better. Take it as what it is. And on the front end, this barrel is quietly eating every scrap of food waste this place generates, without a compost pile that draws bears, which if you've watched much of this channel, you know is not a theoretical concern around here. It's a waste processor. The 18 minutes of flame is a dividend, not a paycheck. And I'll tell you the real reason I built it, which has nothing to do with economics. My grandfather Walt spent his whole working life around equipment that ran on something you had to go buy, haul, and store, and the thing that always got him wasn't the cost, it was the dependence. He used to say the worst part about running out of fuel is never the fuel. It's the trip. 40 minutes to town, 40 minutes back, and a day you can't get back. He kept a spare can of everything for that reason, and he'd rotate them so nothing went stale, and I thought that was fussy right up until I was the one standing in a small town on a Sunday looking for butane. He'd have thought this barrel was funny. He'd also have stood there and watched that flame a lot longer than he'd admit to. So if you want to build one, build one. It costs almost nothing, it's a good weekend, and there is something about lighting a burner off your own trash that does not get old. Just build it knowing what it is. It is not a propane replacement, and the person who told you otherwise wanted the click. I know, because it says it right up there on this video, and I put it there. Do it in the spring so you get a full warm season out of it. Put it where it gets sun. Keep it outside. Scrub the gas. Feed it small and often. And if it turns out you love the thing, that's when you go look at a tote instead of a barrel, and that's the video where the numbers actually start getting interesting. I've got that tote sitting behind the shop already, which probably tells you where this is headed. I'll put a link in the description to the fittings I used, assuming I can find them again, and I'll put a couple videos up here that'll give you something to do in the meantime. I'm Cole Ashford. Thank you for listening.